If you have watched the first 25 Chinese freezer tricks, you already know the basics that can dramatically cut food waste and lower your grocery bill. But Chinese kitchens go far deeper than that. There are another 25 techniques that have been quietly running Chinese households for generations, and these are the ones that go beyond simple storage into transforming how you actually cook every day. From rendered fats that change every stir-fry to a master stock that gets better the longer you keep it, here are 25 more Chinese freezer tricks that can save you hundreds of dollars a year and turn weeknight meals into something genuinely special. Number 25. Freeze rendered pork lard in ice cube trays. Most Americans buy expensive bottled cooking oils and never think about the traditional alternative. In Chinese cooking, pork lard, called zhu yu, is a foundational fat that adds incomparable richness to stir-fries, fried rice, and steamed greens. The trick is to render a large batch from pork fat back once, slowly melting it over low heat until you have a pool of clear liquid fat. Then strain it and pour the cooled lard into ice cube trays and freeze. Once solid, pop them into a labeled bag. Each cube is about 1 tablespoon of pure, shelf-stable cooking fat that lasts 6 months easily. Drop a cube into your hot wok and you instantly transform a plain vegetable stir-fry into something restaurant-level. A 2-pound block of pork fat costs $3 and produces enough lard for months of cooking. Number 24. Freeze marinated char siu pork in portions. Chinese barbecue pork, char siu, takes hours of marinating to develop its signature flavor. Chinese home cooks skip the wait entirely by doing the marinating in advance and freezing the pork directly in its marinade. Slice pork shoulder into long, thick strips, submerge them in a mixture of hoisin, soy sauce, 5-spice powder, honey, garlic, and Shaoxing wine, then portion into freezer bags with the marinade. As the pork freezes and later thaws, the marinade penetrates more deeply than it would in just a few hours at room temperature, giving you more deeply flavored char siu than most restaurants achieve. Defrost overnight in the fridge and roast or grill straight from the bag. Sunday meal prep becomes weeknight magic. Number 23. Freeze velveted beef strips ready to cook. Velveting is the Chinese restaurant technique that gives stir-fry beef its impossibly tender, silky texture, and it is the single biggest reason takeout beef seems better than what most people make at home. The marinade combines cornstarch, egg white, soy sauce, Shaoxing wine, and a small pinch of baking soda. Chinese home cooks marinate large batches of thinly sliced beef at once, then freeze the velveted meat flat in single-portion bags. The baking soda continues breaking down the meat fibers even while frozen, meaning the longer the beef sits in your freezer, the more tender it actually becomes. Pull a bag, thaw under cool water for 10 minutes, and you have restaurant-level beef ready for the wok. Number 22. Freeze pre-blanched Chinese greens. Bok choy, gai lan, and yu choy wilt quickly in the fridge and lose their vibrant color within days. Chinese home cooks solve this by blanching the greens briefly in salted boiling water for 30 seconds, plunging them into ice water to lock in the color, squeezing out the excess water by hand, then freezing in flat portions. The blanching deactivates the enzymes that cause wilting and discoloration, so the greens stay bright emerald and ready to stir-fry for up to 3 months. Drop a frozen portion directly into a hot wok with garlic and oyster sauce for a beautiful vegetable side dish in 90 seconds, no thawing required. Number 21. Freeze ground pork in thin flat slabs. Buying ground pork in bulk on sale only works if you can portion it efficiently for thawing. The Chinese kitchen method is to press the ground pork into a Ziploc bag, flatten it into a thin sheet less than half an inch thick, and freeze it lying flat on a baking tray until solid. When you need pork for a stir-fry, dumpling filling, or meat sauce, the thin slab thaws in 20 minutes on the counter instead of the hours that a thick lump requires. You can also snap off exactly the portion you need without thawing the rest of the package, which is impossible with a thick frozen brick. Number 20. Freeze sticky rice in compact pucks. Glutinous rice is the foundation of countless Chinese dishes, from zongzi to lotus leaf chicken to fried sesame balls. But cooking sticky rice properly requires soaking it for hours before steaming, which is time-consuming. Chinese cooks make large batches and freeze the cooled rice in compressed disc shapes, each one a single meal portion wrapped in plastic. The unique starch structure of glutinous rice handles freezing exceptionally well, and a quick re-steam restores the chewy texture perfectly. Frozen sticky rice pucks are also the instant foundation for making zongzi or lotus leaf chicken at any time without hours of advanced prep. Number 19. Freeze-cooked red bean paste in usable portions. Red bean paste, called dou sha, is the soul of countless Chinese sweets, from sesame balls to mooncakes to tang yuan. Cooking dried red beans down into a smooth sweet paste takes 3 or 4 hours from start to finish. Chinese home cooks make one massive batch every few months, cool it completely, then portion it into small freezer bags pressed thin. The high sugar content of properly made red bean paste keeps it from freezing into a solid brick, so it stays scoopable even at freezer temperatures. Pull out one portion and you are minutes away from filling steamed buns, dumplings, or sweet soups. Number 18. Freeze raw shrimp in lightly salted water. Just like the fish trick from the first list, raw shrimp benefit enormously from being submerged in a salty water bath before freezing. Mix 1 tablespoon of salt into 2 cups of cold water. Place your shelled or unshelled shrimp into a freezer bag. Pour the brine in to cover them completely and seal with as little air as possible. The salt water blocks oxidation, prevents the dreaded freezer burn, and even helps firm up the shrimp texture during storage. When thawed, the shrimp come out with a noticeably snappier bite than fresh shrimp from the average supermarket. This is exactly how high-end Chinese seafood restaurants store their shrimp inventory between deliveries. Number 17. Freeze rendered chicken fat in cubes. This is the Chinese cooking secret that most Americans have never heard of. When you make chicken broth or poach a whole chicken, skim the golden fat that rises to the top during cooling. This is gai yu, or golden chicken oil, and it carries the most concentrated chicken flavor you will ever taste. Freeze it in ice cube trays. 1 single cube tossed into a pot of plain rice transforms it into something close to Hainanese chicken rice. A drizzle over noodles or steamed vegetables creates restaurant-level umami in seconds. The fat that most people pour down the drain is liquid gold, and Chinese grandmothers have known this for centuries. Number 16. Freeze-sliced Chinese sausage portions. Lapcheong, the sweet and smoky Chinese cured sausage, is a workhorse ingredient in countless dishes, from clay pot rice to stir-fried greens to fried rice. The problem is that a full vacuum-sealed package contains more than most people use at one sitting. Chinese home cooks slice the sausages thin on the diagonal as soon as the package is opened, portion the slices into small bags pressed flat, and freeze them. They go directly from the freezer into a hot wok or rice cooker without any thawing at all. The natural fat content in the sausage protects it perfectly from freezer burn, and one package can flavor a dozen separate meals. Number 15. Freeze homemade fried shallots and garlic. Crispy fried shallots and golden fried garlic are the magical finishing touch on countless Chinese dishes, from congee to noodle soup to braises. The store-bought versions are expensive and often stale by the time you open them. Chinese home cooks fry large batches of thinly sliced shallots and garlic in neutral oil until deeply golden, drain them on paper towels, and freeze them in airtight containers along with the strained, flavor-infused oil left behind. The cold temperature locks in the crispiness for months. A spoonful of fried shallots over plain rice or a bowl of soup is the kind of small detail that elevates home cooking to a level most people only experience in restaurants. Now, those first 11 hacks were already serious money savers, but I need you to stick around because the next group is where this really gets interesting. Number 5 involves an ingredient you have probably been buying every single week without realizing you could prep the whole season's worth in one afternoon. Number 14. Freeze the Holy Trinity aromatic paste in cubes. Ginger, garlic, and scallion are the 3 foundational aromatics of Chinese cooking, used together in almost every savory dish. Chinese home cooks blend equal parts of all 3 into a coarse paste using a small amount of neutral oil to help the texture, then freeze the paste in ice cube trays. 1 cube into a hot wok delivers the perfect aromatic base for any stir-fry in under 5 seconds. The oil protects the volatile flavor compounds from degradation during freezing, so each cube tastes nearly as fresh as the day it was made. This single technique eliminates 10 minutes of prep from every weeknight Chinese meal. Number 13. Freeze pre-cut taro chunks. Taro root, or yu-tu, is used heavily in Chinese cooking for braises, soups, and steamed dishes. But fresh taro is annoying to peel and cut, and the raw milky sap can irritate sensitive skin. Chinese home cooks peel and cube an entire taro root at once, wearing kitchen gloves to avoid irritation, then blanch the chunks briefly in lightly salted water before freezing them, spread flat on a tray and transferring to bags. Frozen taro chunks go directly into braises and soups without thawing and soften into beautifully starchy, slightly sweet bites. You do all the messy work once and have ready-to-use taro on hand for months. Number 12. Freeze pickled mustard greens in portions. Suan Kai, the tangy fermented mustard green that flavors countless Chinese soups and noodle dishes, is sold in large jars or vacuum packs at Asian grocery stores. Once opened, the brine starts to lose its sharpness, and the greens can develop off flavors within a couple of weeks. Chinese home cooks portion the contents of a fresh package into small freezer bags immediately upon opening, squeeze out air, and freeze them flat. The fermentation pauses completely at freezer temperatures, locking in the perfect balance of sourness and saltiness for whenever you need a hit of Suan Kai in your soup or noodle bowl. Number 11. Freeze sesame paste in single-use portions. Chinese sesame paste, or jima jiang, is the foundation of cold noodle dressings, dipping sauces, and certain regional hot pot dips. It is expensive and notoriously thick and difficult to scoop from a cold jar. Chinese home cooks thin the entire jar with a small amount of sesame oil immediately upon opening, then portion it into small containers or directly into ice cube trays and freeze. Each portion thaws into perfectly spreadable consistency within minutes at room temperature. The high fat content prevents the paste from freezing rock solid, so cubes pop out and dissolve easily into dressings the moment they hit warm liquid. Number 10. Freeze tang yuan. Glutinous rice balls, tang yuan. The soft, sweet glutinous rice balls served in syrupy soup are a celebration food traditionally eaten during the Lantern Festival and winter solstice. Making them from scratch is labor-intensive because each ball must be shaped individually around a sweet filling like black sesame or peanut. Chinese families always make hundreds of them in a single session, freeze them spaced apart on a tray until completely solid, then bag them up. Frozen tang yuan go directly into boiling water and cook in about 5 minutes, floating to the top when ready. You can pull out 2 for a quick treat or 20 for a family dessert. Number 9. Freeze pre-blanched lotus root slices. Lotus root is one of the most uniquely Chinese ingredients, with a crunchy texture and a beautiful flower-like cross-section that makes any dish look elegant. Fresh lotus root oxidizes and turns brown within hours of being cut. Chinese cooks solve this by peeling and slicing the entire root at once, blanching the slices briefly in water with a small splash of vinegar to preserve the white color, then freezing them flat on a tray before bagging. Frozen lotus root slices drop directly into soups, braises, and stir-fries without thawing and retain their signature satisfying crunch. Number 8. Freeze hot pot broth concentrates. Chinese hot pot is a beloved communal meal, but making a proper broth from scratch with herbs, spices, and slowly simmered bones takes hours. Chinese home cooks make a concentrated double-strength broth in massive batches, cool it completely, then freeze it in large flat freezer bags or quart containers. When you want hot pot, you defrost a portion and dilute it with water back to perfect strength. This means an authentic Sichuan, Cantonese, or herbal hot pot dinner can come together on a weeknight with 20 minutes of prep instead of an entire afternoon of simmering. Number 7. Freeze pre-cooked pearl barley and beans. Chinese sweet soups called tong shui feature ingredients like pearl barley, red beans, mung beans, and lotus seeds simmered slowly with rock sugar. Each of these ingredients requires long cooking times when starting from dry, often an hour or more. Chinese home cooks cook large batches of each ingredient separately, drain them, and freeze them in single-serving portions. When craving a warming dessert soup on a cold night, you combine the frozen ingredients with water and rock sugar and have it ready in 20 minutes instead of 2 hours. Number 6. Freeze toasted peanuts for instant kung pao. Toasted peanuts are essential for kung pao chicken, certain noodle dishes, and as a topping for congee and cold dishes. But peanuts develop rancid flavors quickly once toasted and exposed to room air. Chinese home cooks toast large batches in a dry wok over low heat until fragrant, cool them completely, and store them in the freezer in sealed bags. The cold temperature locks in the toasted aroma indefinitely and keeps the peanuts crisp for 6 months or more. They go directly from freezer to dish without thawing. Number 5. Freeze-chopped Chinese chives flat. Chinese chives, or zhu kai, are a sharper, more pungent relative of regular chives, widely used in dumplings, egg dishes, and stir-fries. Like scallions, they wilt rapidly in the fridge and lose their pungent oils within days. Chinese home cooks wash and dry the entire bunch thoroughly, chop the pieces, and freeze them flat in a sealed bag pressed thin so you can break off exact portions later. The pungent flavor compounds in chives survive freezing remarkably well, and frozen chives go directly into hot pans without thawing. This is the trick behind always having dumpling-filling ingredients on hand without weekly grocery runs. Number 4. Freeze pre-cooked scallion pancakes. Kong Yu Bing, the flaky Chinese scallion pancake, is a labor of love to make from scratch because each round must be hand-rolled, oiled, coiled, and rolled again to develop the characteristic flaky layers. Chinese home cooks make 8 or 10 at a time, cook them all on a flat top until lightly golden but not fully crisp, then cool them completely and freeze them with parchment paper between each one. Reheating takes 90 seconds in a hot, dry pan with no thawing required, and the result is a crispy, flaky pancake that tastes like it was just made. Breakfast and afternoon snacks now feel like treats from a Chinese street vendor. Now, for the final 3. These are what I'm calling the absolute essentials. If you remember nothing else from this video, remember these last 3 because each one unlocks a completely different level of Chinese home cooking. Number 3. Freeze hand-cut noodle dough portions. Fresh hand-cut noodles are dramatically better in flavor and texture than any dried noodle you can buy at the grocery store, but making the dough requires kneading and resting time that most weeknights cannot accommodate. Chinese home cooks make a large batch of basic flour and water noodle dough on a weekend, divide it into single meal portions, wrap each one tightly in plastic, and freeze them. The dough thaws in the fridge overnight or in cool water within an hour. From there, 15 minutes of rolling and cutting gives you fresh hand-cut noodles that destroy anything in a dried noodle package. This single trick brings restaurant-quality fresh noodles within reach of any weeknight meal. Number 2. Freeze homemade XO sauce in cubes. XO sauce is the luxury condiment of Cantonese cooking, made from dried scallops, dried shrimp, cured ham, garlic, shallots, and chilies, slowly cooked together in oil for hours. A small jar at the store costs $20 to $30 and usually contains preservatives. Chinese home cooks make their own version in large batches when dried scallops go on sale, then freeze portions in ice cube trays for instant use. The dense umami flavor compounds in XO sauce survive freezing perfectly because they are suspended in oil. 1 cube tossed into a stir-fry, a bowl of rice, or a serving of plain noodles delivers an explosion of flavor that no other condiment can match. This is genuinely a restaurant secret hiding in your freezer. And the final one. Number 1. The Master Stock, or Lu Shui. This is the single most powerful concept in all of Chinese kitchen wisdom. A lu shui is a deeply spiced braising liquid made from soy sauce, rock sugar, Shaoxing wine, star anise, cinnamon, fennel seed, dried tangerine peel, and other aromatics that you use to braise meats, eggs, and tofu. Here is the genius. After braising, you strain the liquid, cool it, and freeze it in portions. Each time you reuse it, the previously braised ingredients leave behind more depth and complexity, so the master stock grows richer and more layered with every single use over the years. Some Chinese families have a lu shui that has been continuously reused for decades, carefully passed down through generations as a kind of edible heirloom. Freezing portions of your master stock means you always have an instant pathway to deeply flavored tea eggs, braised pork belly, marbled tofu, or soy chicken whenever you want them. 1 pot of lu shui becomes the foundation of dozens of meals over its lifetime. And there is no comparable Western technique that delivers this kind of compounding flavor return. That is all 25 additional Chinese freezer tricks. Combine these with the original 25, and you have a complete Chinese kitchen system that can save your household hundreds of dollars a year while making weeknight cooking dramatically easier and more flavorful. Drop a comment and let me know which trick you are trying first. Share this with someone who would love to know, and subscribe because we have so much more coming.